One of several bills we're supporting this session intended to lower barriers to more housing choices. This is a very specific one, but we like HB 1010, introduced by Representative Sam Lowe out of Lake Stevens, and he's also a Snohomish County Council member, which is important for this. But what it would do is allow counties to approve detached ADUs in areas outside of cities.
Hello, Allison. Thanks for coming on with us today.
Well, hello, Jeff. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Allison, it's a pleasure to have you, and I'm really looking forward to the interview.
Thank you, Joe.
So, Allison, Washington's facing a housing crisis, and there's been a lot of focus on the cities. And before we get into the legislation itself, kind of help us to understand high level, what are the problems that we're trying to solve, and how do ADUs fit into this?
Well, sure. We're in a housing shortage in our state. Our Department of Commerce for the state of Washington estimates that we need 1 million new homes in the next 20 years to meet the need. So there's really a mismatch in supply and demand out there. Supply shortages. What does that mean? That means prices are high. It means that housing is out of reach for a lot of people looking for a place to call home. So we have kind of this affordability crisis happening in the background in our state that is very, very top of mind for us. And I know anyone looking for housing. And we know 3 out of 4 households in Washington cannot afford a median price home. Is one stat we hear from our state association, Building Association of Washington. And so that just means we need more housing choices to be able to help address this supply shortage. I know a lot of activity is happening around this. Accessory dwelling units happens to be one type, and it's one part of the solution that we're seeing a lot more interest in since there was statewide legislation allowing it more broadly in urban areas. But the benefits of accessory dwelling units in the context of this affordability, housing shortage and affordability crisis is it is a more modest size home as compared to a single family home and can be more affordable, certainly more so than the single family home. So that's what makes it attractive. But also one of the primary benefits is allows multi-generational living, flexible living arrangements. So a common reason one might want an ADU is to support aging parents. So the primary home can have an aging parent living in the ADU. They're close by, yet they have their private living space. But it just gives families peace of mind. Or it could support a young adult, a young person just starting out in life, and especially given the affordability challenges here. Is just so there's lots of reasons why and benefits for having ADUs. They're also more sustainable because of their small size. The less expense to heat and cool. And lots of added benefits. It can be an added income source for a homeowner who puts in an ADU. So lots of benefits, but at the end of the day, it's just it's a part of the solution. It's another housing choice, so more people have a place to call home.
Absolutely. So House Bill 1010 is one of Master Builder's 2026 legislative priorities. So looking at rural ADUs, how does this fit in? And what's the problems that this is going to try and solve maybe in the rural area?
Right. Well, it's just one of several bills we're supporting this session intended to lower barriers to more housing choices. This is a very specific one, but we like HB 1010, introduced by Representative Sam Lowe out of Lake Stevens, and he's also a Snohomish County Council member, which is important for this. But what it would do is allow counties to approve detached ADUs in areas outside of cities. And right now we know there's a lot of focus inside urban growth areas, inside the this is where the Growth Management Act is really directing most of our growth to happen, most of our housing to take place. But at the same time, we know there are a lot of needs, and there are a lot of housing needs and needs for affordable housing in rural areas as well. A stat that struck me recently, again from our state association, pointing out that less than 4% of the area of the state of Washington actually falls within urban growth areas. That's far smaller than I had realized. And so you stop and think about, what about rural areas? And so, but the intent of the bill, again, is really is not to disrupt what GMA is trying to do, but provide rural property owners flexibility with what they can do with their property. If they want to add this housing choice for a family member, they can. And it's also intended to create a little more consistency in the rules governing ADUs, because right now there's a lot of variation from place to place. I mean, King County does allow detached ADUs. It's really dependent on specific rules related to zoning and lot size and other things. Snohomish County does not allow them on smaller lots, though they try to. And I can circle back to that later, but generally not allowed in Clark County in the rural area, but Thurston County it's just a lot of variation, and so it's an attempt to create some consistency as well.
Yeah, so you mentioned the vast importance of these sort of adding ADUs to these rural areas. Given the passage of House Bill 1337, as well as others, why were the rural ADUs not addressed at that time?
Yeah, and I think it really goes back to Growth Management Act. There's such a big focus on we such a big need for housing, and we know that most housing at urban densities can only happen in those urban areas, urban growth areas designated by the Growth Management Act. So that's really where all the focus on state law changes for housing have been to try to meet that overall housing strategy. And honestly, there's a little bit of political as well, because that's where legislators could garner the most support. Is really this is happening alongside counties and cities have been updating their growth plan these past few years, and so really a lot of focus and energy happening there, as is the intent of growth management. But the rural areas were just not part of that equation, and I think this is now an attempt by the bill sponsor to say, hey, we do need to think about just creating some flexibility in the rural areas alongside the other good work that's happening.
So you'd say it's incredibly important for the big picture to have the ADUs in these rural areas for the growth.
It's a piece of the puzzle. Thinking about how it fits with our overall housing strategy. It's a piece of the puzzle. It's not. There's not. I would say there's not any one silver bullet solution. We always say we need kind of an all of the above approach. But there already is a lot of focus happening. As I mentioned, inside the urban areas related to middle housing expansion, transit-oriented development. We're seeing co-living housing choices, and ADUs were a part of that as well. But I think really with this bill is trying to just, again, create a little more flexibility for those rural property owners so they have the option to create some affordable housing. And that's if they meet the criteria. Not every lot would be conducive to adding more housing. There's going to be limitations.
So one thing that stands out in House Bill 1110 is it clearly expands housing choices while putting some specific guardrails on it. Can you walk us through some of the key requirements and the thinking behind them?
Absolutely. So yeah, I know the Representative Lowe really tried to carefully tailor this to ensure it's addressing a variety of concerns that some may have about adding housing in rural areas. I mean, for starters, there would be just one ADU allowed on a lot, detached ADU on a lot, and that's really recognition of having less dense housing in rural areas than urban areas. And now water and utilities, that's going to be a big factor, a big consideration. Can rural areas accommodate this additional housing? And so what HB 1010 is saying is that the water usage must be metered. It cannot exceed limits that are under current law when combined with usage of the main property. And so this is one of those guardrails looking at water resources, ensuring we're not exceeding that what is allowed under state law. And this means again mandating some separate metering for water, and all the while keeping that water usage within those limits. Another consideration is going to be your septic and your on-site systems. That's another consideration in the bill. And under HB 1010, documentation would be required, demonstrating that the existing or proposed sewage or septic or on-site system has sufficient capacity to handle the additional demand, and that's going to be generated by the ADU. So if you're connecting to an existing system, that also means you would have to undergo an inspection by a licensed contractor to ensure that it's in good working order and capable of handling increased demand. And then a few other things I'll touch on. The sponsors trying to be thoughtful and ensuring minimizing any environmental impacts as much as possible. We know they still would not be able to encroach on critical areas. You would have shared driveways and other things to ensure you're minimizing the impacts. And I mentioned there's a size cap. I believe the bill caps it at 1,296 square feet. So that is that's a modest size, and that excludes garages and porches. So it's a modest size with a smaller footprint than you would see of a typical single family home. And then last thing I would mention is it allows counties to permit these rural ADUs without triggering expensive infrastructure requirements that would normally come with increased growth targets. So that's, I think that was going to be one of the benefits for the county, that they would not trigger those expensive infrastructure upgrades. So it means ensuring that the existing lot can accommodate it.
Yeah, so with such an interesting proposition, how do you see House Bill 1010 with opposition or hesitation from other outside people, and how do you think those concerns are being
Right.
addressed?
Yeah, I would say those who take a strict view of Growth Management Act are definitely opposed to this. They have expressed concerns that this will tip the balance away from urban areas into a more rural setting, and concerns also expressed by some about the environment, or we may be increasing vehicle miles traveled. But we disagree. We disagree that this is going to undo the Growth Management Act. Most of the action is still very much focused in the urban areas, and we think this is a modest proposal just to allow a property owner to add one small backyard cottage if they meet the parameters. And so we do disagree with that contention, but those supporting it, of course, we're supporting it. Our state association, realtors, I know counties are supporting this too. And I would add, if this passes, it's not automatically in place. All this is saying is a county may then adopt their own ordinance to approve it. And just to give a little more legislative context on that, Snohomish County did try to pass a rural ADU ordinance back in 2022, and it ended up being appealed to the Growth Management Hearings Board and overturned as it relates to small lots. And so I think this bill is informed by that experience, and really the desire to say allow counties to pass a rural ADU code if they so choose, but putting those guardrails on it.
Gotcha. And where in the legislative process is the bill, and how can people get involved if they support?
Well, this is about the third or fourth year that this bill has been considered. Right now, it is sitting in the House Housing Committee and awaiting a hearing. So, if we're going to see movement on it, we would expect to see a hearing scheduled and potentially further movement. Again, this does have bipartisan support. There are some opponents out there, but I think there's still a lot of support for it, and we might expect to again see some hearings, but the issue with this coming legislative session is a short session, and there's a lot of budget challenges that the legislature will be focused on. So really, it will be difficult for any bill to move this session, but it's one we're tracking along with several others. And I'm sorry, your other question is how will people follow?
Yeah, how can people get involved?
Oh, how to get involved? Yeah, well, for starters, if you look up the bill on the legislature's website, you can sign up to receive notifications on it. So if it is going to receive a hearing, you would get notified about it, and you certainly have the option to sign up and testify, or just follow along online. And uh, uh, also, I would invite people to follow our blog, and so I know we would be talking about it, and maybe keep up with Representative Lowe, Sam Lowe. I know he would get the word out if there was going to be movement on this bill.
Yeah, so thank you about all that information on House Bill 1010, but maybe you could offer a little bit more insight into the master builders themselves and kind of who they are, what they represent, and its importance in this region.
Sure. So the Master Builders Association of King and Snohomish counties, we are the oldest and largest local home builders association in the country. So we've been around since 1909, and we're affiliated with National Association of Home Builders, and at the state level, Building Industry Association of Washington. We represent residential home builders, remodelers, contractors, suppliers, anyone connected to the residential construction industry. And we do a lot of advocacy for on behalf of housing. We believe everyone deserves a place to call home. So again, advocacy, a big part of what we do at the association.
Very cool. Could you share a little bit about your role and kind of what you do day to day?
Oh, sure. Senior Policy Analyst is my title. And so, as mentioned, we do a lot of advocacy here in King and Snohomish counties, and certainly at the state level as well, and through our national association, even at the federal level. But I staff our Housing Policy Council, which develops positions. Forms positions on our housing issues, and also involved in a lot of the messaging to help educate policymakers on our positions, and really supporting our team in their advocacy work.
Great. So you've been involved with Master Builders for a while. Is there like one particular project or initiative that you're really proud of, and why?
I touched on earlier all those sweeping state law changes that happened a few years ago, particularly around middle housing and the ADU bill that we were discussing, 1337. I think those combined, sort of think of that as the collective effort of the work we did here at our association, certainly, but in partnership with so many other stakeholders. That was an example of some pretty sweeping change that wouldn't have come about if you didn't have broad coalition support, and it really took everyone working together to get that one across the finish line. I think we'll have a lot of consequential benefits over time. So that was, I think, one in recent years I'm most excited to see, and really we leaned into that at Master Builders to support that effort, and it's ongoing though. There continue to be local barriers to implementing that keep us busy, I'll say, but I'm proud to see that pass in 2023 and just implemented starting last year.
Well, great. So I'm proud to be a member of the Master Builders. I'm proud to have Joe as a student of mine at the University of Washington. And so I love the two organizations. And Joe's got to hear me speak all quarter, although I'm lose my voice today. But I always want to ask my guests, like, if they had just one bit of information, one thing they could share with a student or someone out there, what's a piece of advice you might share?
I would say speak up for housing. I mean, if that's your passion, if that's going to be your career path, but even as a citizen, because housing affects everybody, there's a lot of voices of those who are maybe wary of housing and don't like seeing housing expanded, who are out there. And I would say, in the absence of people stepping up to speak on behalf of housing, that policymakers will listen to the other side. And so I think it's important to share your perspective. Again, no matter what your role is, and really talk about what are those benefits, whether it's to you personally, to a client, related to a project, helping policymakers see the bigger picture of the need for housing, the benefits of a particular project, and understanding those positives. I think, and Joe, your generation is an important voice in that. It's important
Yeah.
that policymakers hear from young people.
So, with that, is there any way that you would encourage anyone to contact you or to learn more about the Master Builders Association? Is there one best way?
Oh, yeah, I would say you can go on our website, mbaks.com, and there's a way you can sign up for our newsletters. And so that's one good way to stay informed on housing issues and our advocacy. And the other is social media. Follow us on social. I think we're on just about every channel you could think of. So you could look us up, and encourage you to follow us there. But feel free to reach out to me as well. I'm on
Sounds
LinkedIn. So.
Well, that's great. I mean, Master Builders has so much good content. I get my daily feed every morning, boils down the news stories of the day that I can just go zero in and look at. You have all these bill trackers. I mean, all these things Master Builders provides to its members in the community. So I want to say, Allison, thanks for coming on today once again. Tell us more about ADUs, and we'll have Master Builders back on to talk about more in the future. But thanks so much for coming on today and talking about this is one of the issues that Master Builders is looking at for 2026.
Well, thank you for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, Allison, it was awesome, really fun to learn a little bit more. Thank you so much.
Great to be here, Joe.